Yasas Pedia. Welcome to this edition of the Weird Record Club, where we're going to be ranking the albums of Aphrodite's Child, the fantastic Greek prog psych band, famous for their legendary double concept album 666, of course, and also well known for featuring among their members Vangelis, one of his solo works you can see here, and Demis Roussos, whose fantastic psychedelic album you can see here. So we'll rank the three albums that they made, only three, so it won't be such a long video. And then maybe we'll discuss a couple of compilation albums, because they had a few really good singles that don't turn up on their albums. Anyway, I'm just being joined by Ozzy and his razor-sharp claws climbing up my trouser leg. Anyway, Aphrodite's Child, probably best known for their concept album 666, and across Europe they had quite a few hits, most famously Rain and Tears. But we'll get to that when we come to talk about their albums. So they were formed in the late 60s in Greece, featuring Demis Roussos, of course, on bass guitar and vocals, and Vangelis Papathanasiou on keyboards, and he wrote nearly all of the music, really. And Luke Sideris on drums. They also had another guitarist called Silver Koulouris, but he left to complete his national service before their first recordings. But he does return for the third one. So Greece at the time Aphrodite's Child was formed was under a military dictatorship, which isn't probably the best environment to start some kind of, psychedelic progressive pop group. So they headed for Britain, but unfortunately they got stuck in France, and so their first recordings were made in France. So 3 albums: The End of the World, It's 5 O'Clock, and 666. So let's go through them and rank them. So the number 1 and number 2, those were quite difficult for me. I'm a big fan of Aphrodite's Child. The third one was pretty easy. So number 3, I'm going to put It's 5 O'Clock. So there you can see Demis, Luke, and Vangelis. There is a nice little gatefold where you can see all 3 of them there in their big hairy Greekness, and a sort of negative thing on the back. So now, I suppose the first thing to say is that the title is a bit disappointing. The first album is called The End of the World, dramatic, apocalyptic. It's what you want from Greek psychedelia. Their third album is called 666, The Apocalypse of John. So again, very dramatic, very apocalyptic. That's just what you want from Greek psychedelia. But It's 5 O'Clock, that just doesn't have the same drama, does it, as the first 2. Anyway, It's 5 O'Clock is the most famous song on the album. It was a single, and it is one of the best songs on the album. I guess it's about 5 a.m. rather than tea time, and it's one of the first. It's when Aphrodite's Child are at their best, listening to them, it's like a cathedral, a Byzantine cathedral or something like that, opening up in your head with stained glass windows and all the light shining through. And they really achieve that on It's 5 O'Clock at the end of the song, where this kind of the sunrise is the only way I can describe it, sweeps from one side of the stereo spectrum to the other. So It's 5 O'Clock is one of the strongest songs on the album. So it starts really strongly. A song called Wake Up, which is a psychedelic rocker, and that comes next, and that's pretty good too. But the third song, they get into a kind of a country rock, and that's not what Aphrodite's Child are at their best when they're being Greek and psychedelic. And country rock, well, it just doesn't work. Now, one of the songs that's actually written by Demis Roussos on It's 5 O'Clock is Annabella, which is track 4. And that's one of the best songs on the album. So you've got Demis as this lovelorn hero who meets his his love, who's some kind of a spirit or a ghost or something like that. She lives in the sea, and they come out and dance till dawn on the beach. So that's really dramatic. Great subject matter for Aphrodite's Child. So those are the highlights, I think, on side one. Now, there's a bit of filler on side two. Funky Mary and Good Times So Fine don't really work for me. However, Marie Jolie, again, is a sort of a phased, floaty dreaminess that really works in Aphrodite's Child songs. And it ends with a song called Such a Funny Night, which is a bit boring and repetitive. So it's 5 o'clock. Aphrodite's Child's second album, I would say it's a sort of a 3-star, 3 out of 5 stars. I mean, there are a few 5-star classic Aphrodite's Child songs on there, but there is quite a bit of filler. So let's get to number 2. I thought long and hard about this, and it might ruffle feathers, but at number 2, I am going to put their classic apocalyptic prog psych album, 666. And we'll talk about why, because everyone knows 666 is their best moment, their best album, don't they? Well, I'm a bit of a contrarian, but anyway, here's the album. It's got some lyrics on the back, and then it's got a gatefold that has a picture of a car crash for some reason. I'm not sure what the symbolism of that is. Is it like the new car pushing the old car off the road or something like that? Anyway, and this is the album where the guitarist returns, so there's more of a guitar rock feel to a lot of it, Silver Coloris, that is. The sleeve notes, this was released in 1972, by the way. The sleeve notes, but it was recorded much earlier. The sleeve notes say this work was recorded under the influence of Sahip, which I gather is some kind of yogurty drink, not some exotic mind-expanding drug as people thought at the time. So the thing about 666 is it has brilliant moments, and, you know, it's like many double albums, it probably would have been better as a single disc. It's a bit too much to sit through. And like I said, I think the best of Aphrodite's Child has Demis Roussos' voice figured, because he really gives passion and energy. And even though some of the pronunciation might be a bit clunky at times, that's when Aphrodite's Child are at their best. And Demis only sings a few songs on this double album. In fact, there are only a few songs on it. There are a lot of instrumentals and a lot of spoken word bits. So let's just sort of go through it briefly. So side one starts with, we found the system, some sort of chant before it gets to the first real song called Babylon. Fallen, fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. Great opening lines. And that's really, you know, fast acoustic strum guitar, psychedelic rocker with, you know, effects and everything. So that's a really strong start. Then you get to a kind of a spoken word bit, a very apocalyptic spoken word bit with backing music. And then you get the next song, which is probably the most famous one, The Four Horsemen, where Demis sings about the four horsemen of the apocalypse. So what does he say? He says, the leading horse is white, the second horse is red, the third one is a black, the last one is a green. So anyway, you get a very apocalyptic lyric. It sort of veers between floaty and psychedelic and a harder rock feel, and you get some of Demis's fantastic melisma, the way his vocals warble up and down. So that is probably the most famous song on the album, and it is a standout track. And then it finishes with a pretty good instrumental and side one. So side one is really strong, but side two, there are a lot of tracks. There are 7 or 8 maybe tracks on side 2. Most of them are instrumental, or they have spoken words over Vangelis's instrumental noodling. You know, it's parts of it are a little bit turgid and go on for a bit too long. You know, this could easily have been edited down. Now, when you get to side 3, you get a few more pointless instrumentals, and you get probably the most notorious song, and that's the song called Infinity, which is done just the infinity sign rather than the word infinity. And that consists of a woman, an actress. I can't remember her name. What was she called? Irene Papas. And she says, I am to come, I am to come, I was. And she goes on and repeats it increasingly histrionically and orgasmically and asthmatically, and it just goes on. And I mean, the original recording went on for about half an hour, but they edited it down here to 5 or 6 minutes. It's still way too much, and it's a lot to ask people to sit through. So there's the problem with side 3. Now with side 4, you've only got 2 tracks on it, and one of them is really, really long. It's called All the Seats Were Occupied, and that's a kind of I don't know what you call an overture at the end of an album rather than at the beginning. I think an underture, that's what the Who called it. So there's an underture which sort of summarizes all the tracks that have gone before it with little excerpts from each joined together musically. Now, if your album's already too long, well, why do you want to waste, a good 15 minutes or so just repeating the whole thing again? So although there are really good moments in it, and it's a remarkable achievement, I think it should have been 5 minutes long. And then it finishes with the single from this album, which is called Break, which again is a very low key, not even sung by Demis. I think it's sung by Luke Sideris, the drummer. And it has these annoying sort of scat vocalizations in it, which don't sound very good to me. And then, of course, it finishes with the large injunction to do it. If only do it had meant edit the album a bit better. Because I think if this had been one album, one disc, I might just have put it at number 1. So there we have it, 666, remarkable achievement, a great listen, but could have been better. So let's go to my number 1 album. And of course, it can only be their first album, The End of the World. There's a bit of a shine on that from the screen. Let's see if I take that off. Might make it better. So what a great psychedelic cover there from 1968. And on the back, you get a close-up of the 3 guys as they were there, with some notes that tell you where they were born, when their birthdays were, their musical training, and which languages they can speak. So Demis, by the way, speaks Greek, Arabic, English, and French. So this is, I think, their finest moment. Everything's there. You've got the dreaminess, the floatiness, the apocalyptic subject matter, and you've got, of course, a psychedelic Byzantine church opening up in your head when you listen to it. So it starts with The End of the World, suitably apocalyptic, one of their classic songs. So one of my favourites, in fact, it'd probably be my favourite Aphrodite's Child song, where followed again by a psychedelic rocker, Don't Try and Catch a River. Then they stray off course and they try to do something that sounds a bit like scary fairground English pop psych, which that's a song called Mr. Thomas, which doesn't work as well. Because like, as I said before, the band are at their best when they're being a psychedelic Greek pop band, with the emphasis on the Greek. Although they sing in English, there's often a Greek feel to the melodies and the structure and the way Demis sings. So we get to Rain and Tears is the 4th song, and that is, again, a classic based on Pachelbel's canon. And that was a hit all over Europe. I don't think it was a hit in this country, but again, another of the band's most famous songs. And then side 1 finishes with a really interesting song called The Grass Is No Green, where it's another kind of apocalyptic vision. I just wish that the lyrics actually were written by a French bloke on this album, someone called Bergman. I just wish that he'd sort of checked them out with the native speakers. It just annoys me when, he says the grass is no green. instead of the grass isn't green, or the grass is not green. Anyway, language quibbles aside, that's side one. Side two starts with Valley of Sadness, again, very Greek. It's got some bouzouki on it, it sounds like to me. And then the second track is another all-time favourite of mine, You, and this is probably the hardest rocking that the early Aphrodite's Child band did. So that's another classic on this album. The Shepherd and the Moon, again, has a very Greek mythical feel to it, and is another standout. And then it ends with a bizarre extended song called Day of the Fool. Perhaps the weakest song on the album, but overall I'd give this, 4.5 stars, something like that. And so it just pips to the post 666. So there you have it. Aphrodite's Child albums ranked. Now, the thing with Aphrodite's Child is, as well as their 3 albums, they did release quite a few singles that aren't on the albums, and some of these are not easy to find in the UK. Some of them turn up on best ofs, and a very ubiquitous best of is this one with its really hideous cover of an ugly looking toddler, and there he is on the back sniffing Aphrodite's bottom, it looks like to me, and there's the gatefold. Whoops, you can see the child crawling away there with a big heart on his bum. So again, this includes Spring, Summer, Winter and Fall, and Let Me Love, Let Me Live, which were 2 non-album singles. So this one's easy to find. You see it all over the place in record shops and record fairs. Finally, you also see this one cropping up quite a lot. It's an Italian compilation. Superstar is the series, and what this one has is it's got a decent selection of early hits. I should say that the previous best of, by the way, this one, it only goes up to their first 2 albums. It doesn't include anything from 666, and this is the case with this one. What this one does have, though, is it has both sides of an Italian language single that wasn't released anywhere else, so worth picking up for that, and it's usually very cheap. What it does have inside is a nice little booklet. So there they are in action. If we turn over the page, you get some sleeve notes, all in Italian, of course. You get the boys there looking mean and moody. They're looking a bit more psychedelic. There they are, getting some gold records, probably for Rain and Tears, I would imagine. There you go. If you ever wanted to see Aphrodite's Child having lunch, there you have it. And then there's the single picture sleeve for Rain and Tears, with the guys looking like big hairy Greek gods. So so you probably find that around quite cheaply. There we have it, the ranking of Aphrodite's Child's best albums. I know, shock horror, 666 isn't number 1, so check out The End of the World. If you like apocalyptic Greek psych, you could also check out Demis' solo album, On the Greek Side of My Mind, or Fire and Ice. There's a video about it on this channel. Anyway, that's all for this time. I will see you next time on the Weird Record Club.